Hello and welcome to another edition, 120 something of the Fervent Four Show.
Yeah, 125.
125. So how did the origins of the Fervent Four, the name specifically, since that's the question that people always remember when we used to do an intro, and I used to talk about a little bit in the intro, and when people would ask, oh, what does that mean? I'd be like, well, clearly you haven't listened to at least the intro of the show.
That was a sure tell sign that people were not paying attention. And it's in the show notes, and it's on the website. And
I wonder how many people, obviously for internet reasons, show notes and descriptions and things like that are important. I wonder how often people actually read a show note or a description. Like if you're watching something on TubeView, how often are you looking at that?
I look at it pretty often, honestly. So especially if you are listening to a podcast that is like really information heavy. So like yesterday, for example, I was listening to This Week in Startups. They were talking about liquidation preferences, really, really dense topic. And so a lot of times, like with that, they will put the Excel spreadsheet in the show notes or the Google sheet in show notes so that you can actually download it, look at it. So when it comes back to like referencing things that are mentioned, I think that it's super, super helpful. But typically, or the other thing, and we do this as well, we timestamp everything. So if you want to go back to listen to something, or if you are just interested to hearing if you want to skip ahead into something, then you can check out the timestamps to see.
I feel like I only do it like when someone mentions something, like I'm gonna put it in the description or the show notes, and I'll just look, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. In terms of like especially like anytime a book is mentioned or a new TV show to watch, it's my greatest intentions to remember, and I really, really try hard. And since 99% of the time when I'm listening to a podcast, I'm out running, I'm away from pen and paper. That's when I really, really hope that they put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about this at least in person or, on the phone or something, maybe not here, but when you're running and you have a thought and then 5 minutes later you can never remember that thought again, you think they're coming up with technology to fix that?
I would do that. Would be that if I was a founder that had an unlimited budget, that would be something that I would try to do, is like telepathically communicate that thought to my notes on whether if it's your Apple Watch or your iPhone or whatever the case is, because man, I would like to think that sometimes, man, I come up with some real gems of ideas and then I can't ever remember. But
I used to, I don't anymore. Maybe I should do this again because of stuff like that. Like when I would be dreaming or waking up in the middle of the night, I'd come up with an idea and I'd immediately write it down in a little notebook. But it's like I'm driving and like you can't get to your phone, or like I look, if I am listening to something, like I still run with my phone, but usually it's in like a pocket or like a fanny pack running thing. With you just have your watch, but it would be nice if you could somehow dictate something from a note perspective. I mean, maybe you can do that. Can you? Do you know?
Well, yeah, I think that you would have to pause whatever you're listening to and then take down like an audio recording or whatever the case is. But I don't know, man. I'm just too when I'm out there running, I want to get that done. And if anything, it'll pick up my pace a little bit so that I can get home before I forget. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I will. Some of the most complex problems or speech stuff that I want to talk about for an upcoming speaking appearance, man, those will hit me in the middle of the night, and I will like just spring up and just get right to my notes on my phone to jot some of that stuff down, because
if not, you'll forget. You really will.
Yeah.
You'll have like this great idea of how to like open something or like a nice transition or whatever it is. Yeah, I'm totally with you.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's because it's one of those things. I think that if you think too hard, then you don't, you can't put those thoughts together. But like when you're meditating or you're sleeping or whatever, if you're just daydreaming, mowing the lawn, running, whatever the case is. You know, it's just like sometimes those thoughts they just hit you different. At least for me.
So what is the origin? What does Fervent Four mean?
Well, it's only 4% of businesses hit the $1 million annual revenue mark. So the idea was to feature early stage founders to talk about their journey to that $1 million mark, pass on what they've learned to help other founders with the tips and the tricks that they need to also hit that $1 million revenue mark, or bringing on resources that can help you get to that $1 million annual revenue mark.
And you can find that answer in the show notes. I don't know if that'll happen, but there's the answer if you don't remember from however many times ago. How many people have asked you that question of like, oh, what does Fervent Four mean?
100% most number one question that's asked. And then some people just straight up say that they hate it.
Yes, there is actually a guest that we've had on the show who has persistently asked me to change the name of the show. I sent you an email too, I remember, and I was like, dude, like we're not changing the name. And I remember you sent me what he showed me what you sent or whatever, or he sent, and yeah, he just hates the name. Wants the name to be something different. And I'm just
I think some people get confused because generally it's only two people, you and I, or there's not four people on the show, and some people look at the literal aspect of it all, but.
Because if I recall, the branding 101 of this, it was like, okay, hey, there's the 4% aspect, and I think we had something around like the 4% or like becoming the 90s or something like don't be the 96%, something like that. I don't remember the exact words. And then you said the word fervent. I was unfamiliar with that because I got the education level of a second grader. So it just coming out, I had to look that up. I probably still have to look that word up because my memory is about as good as a kindergartner. So ask me what fervent means. I'm going to fail that question.
Well, I just, the passionate pursuit, someone that, and you, as a founder, that's something that you need. You need to like just be, no matter what, I'm going to have the grit, the tenacity, and just go get after it. You need to go after it in a fervent type of manner. So
speaking of that ferventness, I remember last week's guest had, I thought one of the best responses to getting a no that I've ever heard.
Right.
And it was something along the lines of, oh, I know you're not going to invest in my company. And I know you're going to tell me.
You can say it's just not the right time.
Right. You can't say that just not right now. Right. I need something more. So it was, and there's a lot of people that will look at the comedy aspect of it and say, yes. And so constantly questioning that, right, until you get the last answer that you want. And, you get a no, but figuring out, yes, I understand that. However, why is that? I get timing's not right, but what else are you, unpack this a little bit more. What else are you seeing from that? Right. And from that, she saw that she had a hole in her business, spending way too much money operationally, basically on product. And I think she dropped 40% off of that, redid the thing, the drill another 3 or 4 times. And I thought that's what you have to have as right. From a gritty tenacity perspective. And I appreciate that. And much success.
Yeah, because there's just a ton of different reasons as to why people wouldn't invest. And it's not necessarily, does it always have something to do with the founder, the business model, the company, or whatever the case is? Like right now, me personally, I have more deal flow thrown at me right now than I could ever, as much as I would love to invest and continue to put money to work for different companies, man, there's just only so many resources that are available. And right now there's just way too many opportunities for me to participate in all of them. And that has nothing to do with the business or the founder.
Is that different?
Is
that answer always that fluid? Is it always that there's a lot of opportunities?
No, not necessarily. But my point is that it just because you get now is not the right time, it may not necessarily have anything to do with you, the founder, or you, the business. It may just all have to do with the position of the investor that you're talking to.
Yeah, I like that answer from her.
Yep. Thanks, Zach. Is this the time that I'm supposed to come up with something really, really...
No, I was trying to fix my light without doing it on camera.
Thought you were showcasing my new camera rig.
No, I mean, can we zoom in on the guy behind you?
My Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Opal camera, though, I mean, I give that thing mad props. It's so I've had it a week. This is second show with this camera, and every single person that I have had a call with, that has been one of the first things that they have said. It's like, man, that is a crazy setup.
Oh, I mean, it's a nice camera.
Yeah.
I do think, though, you don't always have to have the greatest camera equipment as long as you have good sound and stuff like that. But it is nice when you upgrade to then actually be like, oh, wow, this is what people can look like. It's kind of like if you looked at, I'm assuming what iPhone 1 pictures would look like if you were to see someone with that camera now.
Right.
Like, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, as much resources as Apple puts into the iPhone camera, it seems like, Macs and that kind of thing. It's just, I don't know. That's just, the camera quality is just something that is never talked about on laptops, Apple or not.
I wonder why that is. Too expensive? Or laptops?
I don't know.
Is not. Maybe laptops aren't bought. I mean, I would assume that the iPhone is the number one product in their line.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And
matter of fact, maybe not 100%, but I think it legitimately, it's like makes up of a huge majority of their revenue is iPhone sales.
And their well, now they have two headphone companies, right? So they have the Apple branded, and then they have the Beats by Dre, right? Isn't that an Apple product? I actually have Beats by Dre. Interesting. So that is interesting. And then iTunes, is iTunes still popular?
I think iTunes was actually shut down a couple of years ago.
Really?
Yeah, like there is no. You got Apple Music, you've got the Apple.
Okay, I'm just calling it the wrong thing, but it's their own branded. Okay, got it.
Right.
So Apple Podcasts, Apple Music, whatever. But Apple Music is Apple Music. So then is Apple Music a big product for them?
I don't know if they. I don't know if they separate that out on their quarterly earnings or anything like that. But I know that the AirPods, I mean, that's $1 billion business within itself, which is crazy.
Yeah. What are you watching on Netflix?
So Apple's revenue was $274 billion. Half of it came from the iPhone, 10% came from Mac products, 8% came from the iPad. What am I watching on Netflix? We're late to the game on this one. We just started Better Call Saul. That was one of those shows that we love. Breaking Bad. We tried watching it. We got sidetracked, not because we didn't like it, and then we just forgot about it. And then now,
last season, is it all out?
Yeah, they just finished it. So seeing some stuff on social media, that prompted us to be like, man, why didn't we finish that? So we picked that back up again. So older series there, but on Hulu, we just started watching The Patient. So that's interesting. That's Steve Carell is a therapist.
Oh,
and
serious show.
Yeah, he's held captive by a serial killer.
Ooh,
and so it's interesting. If you have Hulu, check that out. And the good thing with that, there are 3 episodes in, and they're only 25, 26-minute episodes. So super quick to watch.
I am not a fan of watching shows episode week to week. At this point, I'm like, let me give them all to me so that I can watch the whole thing. I mean, so like I'm watching The Boys. I've watched season 1 and 2. I don't know if you've watched that show. Season 3 is out. It is the most outlandish, inappropriate, ridiculous show.
Is that about the Lakers?
No. This is about superheroes that are ridiculous.
It's I've heard the show somewhere.
It's on Prime. Yeah, it's
yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
It is wild. It is insanely inappropriate. It's so inappropriate. You're like, did that really just happen? Which obviously is why I love a show like that. And you just don't expect some of the stuff they do. It's wild. But I don't remember anything about season 1 or season 2. And it doesn't matter how good a 3-minute clip is before. I don't remember why certain things have happened. And that's why I love to watch straight through an entire series like I do. So you get Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. I watched a couple episodes of that. It a lot of people said it's not even close to being truthful. It's very the logo, Jerry West Virginia University grad, I think was suing HBO over the production of that show because it was so misdirected, whatever the word is, saying it was not how things went down. So
interesting. We also, since you asked, Zach, I watched the first few episodes of Mike, the Mike Tyson story, also on Hulu. Man, dude, crazy when you look at how he grew up.
I've not watched that. On Hulu, I did watch the Pam and Tommy series, which also extremely inappropriate. But it is interesting if you peel back the topic of that show, how that really pushed a lot of what content looks like now,
right, from
before. No one ever thought about, your VHS tape being the thing that you would stream. And I mean, if you think about it, the YouTubes of the world, your Instagrams of the world, the Twitches of the world, I mean, they're all kind of based off of what happened that from that tape. And it's pretty interesting to see how far you've come. I think it was mid-90s maybe. But you're almost watching this thing that's 27 years old in the making. You're like, wow,
right.
It's hard to believe that we actually didn't used to have video. Even 10 years ago, video on a phone was difficult.
Right.
And now it's just like swipe, scroll. I mean, we've come a long way, as they say.
Yep. Yeah. Check out the Mike Tyson thing, man, because it's just to do
I will.
The pressure that he was under. I mean, he was just, man, I don't know how anybody could have survived that, but boy, when you got into the ring and then he was.
Where's he from?
Brooklyn. But he met his initial trainer in jail when he was when he was 13 years old.
Oh, he went to jail.
Yeah. So then that was kind of the start of everything. But yeah, man, it's one of those things where we're like, when you're going through an incident or going through a series of things and you're like, what in the world is happening? Why does someone have to go through all of this? But that's obviously set him up to be the youngest heavyweight champion, and to the point where it's like, man, how, like back in the day, you would pay for pay-per-view for those fights, man. He was winning every fight in
13 seconds.
Yeah. Like 30 seconds or less. Crazy.
Yeah. So school year is back for many, whether that being high school, middle school, elementary school, college. Maybe it's to some the beginning of the work year in some capacity. You start to see a bunch of headlines about return to work and just maybe going back to some sort of normalcy or things being a little different. And I over the last few weeks, months, I've seen some headlines that just seem a little odd to me. But then it seems like people jump on them, maybe because they want them to turn to fruition, and then they become this thing. When you're reading on Twitter or on LinkedIn and you're seeing a headline that might be, I don't know if it's clickbaity, but it's definitely something that seems a little interesting. what makes you investigate on something like that and then figure out if that's going to become the norm or not, so that you can stay on top of something like that the same way you would probably from a company that you're going to invest in and things like that?
Yeah. I mean, well, first off, my basic rule, like I will 99% of the time, I will not click on anything if there's the words could, should, might be, possibly. I mean, all that stuff to me. I mean, that is just, it could be that is just speculation. It's not fact based. It's purely opinion based, and it's just to get a rise out of the whoever's viewing or reading that article.
Yeah.
And so that to me is the first thing that I'll look at. Now, I mean, and if it's fact based, then I'll take a look at it. But I mean, independent critical thinking is something that I think society really, really lacks these days. The only people are just so used to being told how they need to think that it's just, we live in interesting times.
You should do that, Tim.
What's that?
I remember that was probably episode 1 of the year, where Alan Lim from Scratch was like, yeah, I removed should from our vernacular. And it's interesting. I obviously have said the word should probably 15,000 times this year, and I should have removed it from my vernacular. I didn't, but I agree with what he said. And it's kind of on the lines of what you're saying. It's just like, okay, well, how do you in the moment remove certain things like that to make them less, I don't even know if the word's controversial. It's just like, it's kind of like you said, you see this headline, what would happen if, the shoulds, woulds, whatever's of the world. It's just like, I never thought of that until you told me. And I don't know if you heard that from someone else, but I was like, that's really interesting. And I'm just scrolling headlines and everyone has one of the Tim Ryan no words.
Yeah. I mean, that was just, I think that was just something that, I'm sure I'm not the first one to think about that, but that was just something that I was able to identify. And it was just like, especially when you get people freaking out and just losing their mind over stuff. And it's like, this is just total non-factual, speculative editorial writing. I mean, it just based on nothing. So I don't know. I really, really tried hard to only focus on the things that I can control. So you asked me if I was nervous about the game tonight. I'd like to see the boys win, but at the end of the day, man, I have no control over it. So just hope for the dub.
All right. You got a question? I got somewhat of a follow up to this. If not the Buffalo question, we're not going to go into that. I'm not going to make you do that. Our podcasters, so we're podcasters. We do this show. Are podcasters journalists?
Yeah. I'm just trying to think through the case as to why we would not be.
I also wrote the word media. Are podcasters part of the media, right?
I would say yes.
So media and journalism is the same thing?
So you would probably know the answer to that better than me, just because you went to school for journalism. So I don't know if
journalism, journalism now and what journalism was before is kind of
right. So like
slightly different thing.
Yeah. Are we like doing fact checking and all kinds of stuff beforehand before we have a guest on the show? We'll do some
research.
We'll do some research, but in terms of like how far we take that, I mean, it's just more of a conversation. But I think the difference, though, what we're doing is that we're not, this being a long form conversation, we can understand the context of what it is that the point that we're trying to make, or the counterpoints, to be able to weigh things out in different ways. So from that standpoint, I think that we're journalists. But, and again, we're not, this is not like a 60-second segment or a 30-second segment. We do have that freedom and flexibility to do things in long form. I think that's a big difference maker. What's your take?
Well, as we're talking this through more, maybe I have different thoughts on it. I'm wondering if journalism is evolving. I think that answer is yes,
sure.
Right? I think that when I went to school, what I was taught, and I think journalists or people like me are supposed to, inherently, we're nosy people, right? Where we're constantly in a, hopefully not negative and aggressive way, but we're pressing people for more information. I feel like that's actually why I've been decent at business, is because I'll ask people questions and people are like, oh, I can't believe you asked that person that question. And people are like, wow. And so I'll get the answer, and then I get a lot more information out of them than most people who would never ask that question.
Right.
Or like something random, like I'll meet someone, and I'll ask them how much they paid for their house or something ridiculous like that. By the way, I can figure out that answer by going to Zillow very easily too. So it doesn't matter. But like, I'm a nosy person. I think the word journalism, I'm going to make sure I do that with both quotes. The word journalism, I believe, is supposed to be an unbiased way to tell as much of the story as possible with every side of the story as possible, or at least two sides of the story. And so you'll see, like, if you ever read something or listen to something, you'll get one side and they'll give you their take on the story. And then they'll have the other side, and that side says, they weren't available for comment. They declined comment or something like that. And so they're not giving their side of the story, but in journalism world, that is them, at least that side saying no comment, basically. That is, representing both sides of the equation. And so I think that our podcasters, journalists, in some cases, yes. I think a better way to maybe describe this is podcasters produce media, produce content, and occasionally they are doing journalistic things.
Yeah. And again, I don't know like the formal definition of it, but that's the beauty of this show, is that there's not an agenda that we're pushing. When we first started this show, the whole idea was there's a lot of cool things that are happening in Hampton Roads, the 757, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, in our region. And let's give the founders a platform in which that they can tell their story. Because if you talk to any founder out there, the number one challenge that they face is, how do I get my message out there? How can I amplify my voice? And we wanted to provide a platform that, one, we could give the founders a platform, but two, people that wanted to understand, hey, what cool stuff is happening in this region. This is a great place for people to check that out.
Now, the word cool in there is what, that word is, that would be the,
or maybe it's not cool.
Yeah, that's it's just, but that's an opinion, right? What I think is cool is not what you think is cool, type of thing. So you try to remove that type of stuff out of the journalism that I have, professionally been taught. So I looked it up. According to Wikipedia, journalism is the production and distribution of reports on the interaction of events, facts, ideas, and people that are the news of the day, and that informs society to at least some degree. The word, a noun, applies to the occupation, the methods of gathering information, and organizing literary styles.
Yeah. So based on that, at best, I think super, super, super loosely we could be considered that, because we're not reporting. We are not. I mean, this is just a conversation that we're having, and if someone wants to listen in on that conversation, you're welcome to listen.
I do remember though when we interviewed Jay Cal at the beginning of the year, Jason Calacanis, he said that a lot of people will just listen to his stuff and rebroadcast it.
Right.
And so he was very, I don't know if the word is hesitant, but he was very hesitant to say certain things because he didn't want them to be clipped into a 10-second clip without the full story. Kim Hasty says, I don't know why you would not consider yourselves journalist. Fine, I'm changing my LinkedIn profile from whatever it is right now, on a mission to find the world's best apple fritter, to Zack Miller, journalist, ?
There you go.
There we go. What you got for me, Tim? You got a list of like 1,500 questions, Tim
yeah, I mean, we were rolling on this one.
Well, it's an interesting, deep thought.
Yeah.
I don't think most people would consider themselves journalists who do this.
No,
I think they would call themselves creators.
And when you asked that question, I wasn't even looking at it from a self-reflection standpoint. It's just podcasters in general.
I don't even think you call yourself a podcaster. Even though you do this and are one. Do you? If you were to meet someone, would you tell them
I don't describe myself as a podcaster. I describe myself as someone who has a podcast.
Okay.
But I don't know. I mean, I feel like I do so much as it is that I'm like, if I continue to add more and more stuff to the things that I do, then yeah, it just, people probably just scratch their head and be like, dude, you need to chill out. How do you have time to do all this stuff? And I don't know. Some days are better than others.
I don't know either.
But yeah, this is fun. I enjoy this conversation because I guess that's the whole one of the things that with live podcasts where we record everything live that things come up, and sometimes people are probably like, man, this is a 31-minute intro. When are we going to get to the guest? But we're just going to chew the fat on this one because, I mean, as with business, something happens every single, the day-to-day life of a founder is tough. And
well, I remember, so this will be my last part of it, but as you said that, it made me think of like when I was, working for the news, and you kind of knew the story that you were writing. So you were asking questions to a clip, right? So there wasn't even trying to get context in some of that stuff. It was just like, you were like, okay, I need this person. Like, how do you feel about this? Whatever's happening in this thing. Got it. Boom. Done. That's it. And they would call them men on street, man on street, woman on street. That would be the quote. And it's just interesting how sometimes you have a plethora of questions that you're ready and going to go deep diving in. And that's why I like long form stuff. I feel like you're able to articulate a statement a lot more, and some people love that, some people hate that, but I think it's the host's job to not be lazy and to investigate and dive deeper, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really proud of the content that we continue to produce. We put a lot of time into it to make sure that we get the guests lined up. And I know I've learned a ton from a lot of different people. And the thing that's really interesting is the fact that we've had a few different producers that have helped with the show, because it takes a lot of work to do what it is that we do in terms of lining everything up in preparation for, making sure that everyone is where they need to be. And then during the show, we have someone in the background that is time stamping everything so that the show notes can be done. I mean, it is quite a production. And one thing is for sure is that anybody that thinks that doing a podcast is easy has never done a podcast before. I mean, in terms of just sticking with it, having the endurance to do it, constantly looking for guests to have on the show.
That alone is a difficult thing.
Yeah. Being able to carry on a conversation, to be curious, to want to ask questions. I mean, all that stuff is really, really difficult. And the thing that I find really that's the most challenging is when it comes down to like getting people to subscribe to your YouTube channel, getting people to download or leave a review or rate your podcast. That stuff is really, really difficult. And I think that people are really, really quick to make that determination of, oh, well, if you don't have 6-figure number of subscribers or over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, then you really haven't made it at all. And it's just like, until you've been in this position to understand how difficult it is to scratch and claw to get every subscriber that you have. I mean, people have no clue how difficult it is.
Yeah. Why is it difficult to find people to interview? I would think that's the easy part. I think in theory it's easy. And to find someone is easy. Then getting that person to say yes, to find the time for a lot of people also don't want to be interviewed. They're scared of being interviewed. They don't want to do a free flowing show. They want to answer three things. Those would be a couple of things that I would say from that perspective. Finding time in their schedule, to us, that's not that big. We can maneuver that a little bit, I guess, especially this season.
Just the fact that by being a guest on a show, and a live show,
maybe the live aspect is too much.
You're under the microscope, so to speak. So like that pressure that people face, I think is really, you've got to step out of that comfort zone and lean into that discomfort.
I mean, I've had clients that are like, I don't want to be, even though this is my company and it's whatever, I don't want to be the brand. I don't want people to see me. I want it to do itself. I'm like, well, how do you anticipate that speaking for itself without someone with a megaphone speaking? The answer is typically this.
I don't know, Zach.
Nothing.
You did a great job of. I was like, man, did he freeze? We lost Wi-Fi with Zach.
We've lost the connection. No. Their answer is they don't have one. They just are like, oh, and I'm just like, how do you anticipate that thing getting out? Even if you hire a publicist to do all this other stuff, someone's got to go on the radio, the podcast, the TV, the whatever, the blogs, the live shows, everything, the Twitches.
It is.
Someone's got to do it. And so you might as well be your best cheerleader and say the exact same thing over and over and over again, so that's articulated correctly, instead of someone else who's trying to explain what you do when it's not even right, because that game of telephone, it's you better than anyone else.
100%. Yeah, it's not easy, and then you listen to every single person with a successful podcast, and the thing that every single one almost unanimously says, you got to keep creating content. You got to discontinue doing it.
Why? Because the habit will stop?
No, just in the sense of just to continuing to build more and more content. Viewership. I mean, just build that library. But I mean, everyone just says it takes time. I mean, it's scary to me. I would, the thought of if I had a homework assignment to relook at some of the early episodes that we've had, I'm not sure I'd want to encounter that.
Cool. We used to watch episode 1 this weekend. What are you watching on Netflix this weekend? Well, I, Tim Ryan, am rewatching episode 1 of the Fervent Four Show.
Yeah. But everyone's they've got to lean into that discomfort. And I think that a key point, one of the key points that we're going to talk about in this show is the fact of, if you want a different outcome, you have to do something different. So if your business is stuck in the status quo and you get the same thing over and over again, you have to do something different to get a different outcome. So maybe it's doing a podcast, maybe it's doing a speaking appearance. You've got to do something, where otherwise your business is going to be stuck in that lull, and you're it's just day in, day out doing the same things with the same outcomes. And it's not, what got you here isn't going to get you there. It's something that we say in our family quite a bit.
What's that quote? Discomfort is pain leaving the body. Leaving the body. I don't know. It's something along the lines of that, but it's like, by doing that, it produces success. And to do that, you have to sweat it out, basically, and deal with it.
Yeah. It takes a lot of work.
And something that I never thought about doing before. I've had a couple podcasts in the past, but something that you quickly, I feel like we're like, hey, we should have a producer for the show. Run through a couple. Have one now, who is actually quite the athlete too.
Well, the crazy thing about it is, man, we're on a streak of all 3 that we've had all happen to be 6-footers that played basketball. I mean, so But the thing that, so I think about this, man, and it was one of those deals. Yeah. So
even Connor
played intramurals with UVA. And then Gavin was a 6, I think he was 6'3" or something like that played basketball. And now we have Andrew.
Machine Gun Kelly.
But it's interesting. So, but I do think about that in the sense of, is that a quality that I unknowingly picked up on? So like in basketball, so to speak, you got to be able to pass the ball to someone. If someone passes the ball to you, you need to know what you're going to do with it. You got to take the shot. You got to finish the play, whatever the case is. So in all the cases to this point, Andrew included, it's just like when he gets the ball, he knows what to do.
You think so you don't even think athlete. You don't even think collegiate athlete. You're going even deeper into it, saying maybe even basketball athlete.
Well, I'm just in the sense of athlete. Yeah, I think that it's just an interesting. It's interesting when you think about the fact that there's 5 people that are on the floor from each team at the same time, and you can't. I think that it's really difficult to hide any mistakes. Andrew would be able to talk more about that than me, but I mean, it's just like the ball is constantly moving from person to person up and down the court, and I think that if you make a mistake, it's going to show, and then you're not going to be on the court. So you got to be able to perform when the time is necessary. That's my hypothesis. Is that true? I don't know.
Well, let's ask him.
Is this Andrew's debut?
Wow, the debut.
He's nervous.
Yeah,
I'm nervous for you right now. We'll only keep you on for 3 minutes. You'll be fine.
I don't even think that. But again, Andrew, I'll be surprised. I mean, there might be. Are you even nervous at all? I mean, again, this is one of those times when it's time to perform. You have to perform, and that's just another point.
No, I mean, not really. I mean, it feels like I'm just talking to you guys. The only difference is the live little red thing is up there. So,
but is that the case though? In terms of you practice enough basketball throughout your career, you're a collegiate athlete that you're the captain of the team. So then when you practice and you have the reps, you have so many reps in place right now that when you get the ball, it's just natural instinct to do what you got to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think to a certain degree, warming up, you always get those pregame jitters. You know what I mean? When you're playing with a lot of people like that, I don't think goes away, but a good coach, one of my favorite coaches always told me you got to channel that, and it's kind of like when the ball goes up and, it's live, it's just, you got to like take everything else out. And then I think that's when you kind of lean into, okay, I know what I'm doing. I've done this, even when you're going against bigger schools or whatever, it's like these guys tie their shoes the same way. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. You kind of get comfortable being in those situations, I guess.
You hear a lot of broadcasters in sports talk about the big game, whatever that big game is. And then, the jitters are there, like you just said. And then, once the ball is snapped, kickoff, you throw the ball up, to start a basketball game, whatever it might be, it goes away. I mean, do they really just go away though? Because I'm thinking, okay, what is that for me? I haven't really been an athlete in 20 years. I don't know that I did or didn't have I feel like when I would swim, they would probably still be there. Like I would really want to win that race. And if it was a big race, I probably have to swim through that race still with those jitters. As soon as the race is over, maybe it goes away. Maybe that's because it's an individual sport in that case. I don't know. But so then I'm thinking about like a speech, right? I don't know how many speeches you've done, Andrew. Tim has done, a ton just like I have. I typically get the jitters right before I'm going on, maybe even depending on the platform the night before, I might get a little nervous about it, excited, whatever word you want to use to describe it. And so does that go away as I start? I don't know that it does. And so maybe I get more comfortable up there, but I'm not sure that I've been in a situation other than maybe doing it so many times, which is what the point is. But like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I am still, I feel like those nerves don't really go away until it's over or I get to the Q&A section or something like that. So I'm interested in if you think that does go away, and Tim, what you think about that from a performance perspective.
I don't know. I think it's how the person is wired. Like before I hit the stage, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, there's that pre-nervous jitters, but at the same time, I also can channel something in the sense of like me, I will know that if someone is, if I can picture someone that I know would be absolutely terrified to do this, that's something that just makes me stronger. If I'm running a race and I see someone struggling, that just makes me stronger. And I just dig deep and I'm like, I'm passing you no matter what, because I can sense that weakness in you. And so that's just when it's time to kill. I mean, that's just, so I think the thing that's really, that's tough for me, like when it's tough for me to control my emotion when I'm like, and I'm not super like emotional in the sense of when I'm talking kind of thing, but like if I'm doing a talk and then people are just like I could never be a preacher. If people are like, woo, or a politician in the sense of when people get behind you, like I can feel that energy coming back from the audience back to me. And then that like triggers even more emotion back where it is just like, and then I lose my focus because I feel that sense of energy. So I don't know, man. It's just,
but how do you do that in running? Because when you run in a race, you're constantly, like, at least the race that I've done with you, like you're saying thank you, hello to all the volunteers, which is kind of similar. I feel like what you're saying gets you more hyped up and stuff like that. That you think that's a deterrent for you? Is that what you're saying?
Not in the running standpoint, but for from the speaking standpoint. And I think that it's probably just not doing enough of those particular talks. But do you get nervous before you go up on stage, Zach?
Yeah. And most people would say would never believe that, and I'd say it's because I had enough beers to hide it.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, like this weekend, I was asked to speak at India Fest in Virginia Beach, and the last time they did this was pre-COVID, and they had 10,000 people there, and they anticipate to have 12,000 or more people there. And I'm not suggesting that I'm going to be speaking in front of 12,000 people. I'm just saying that like it's probably a breakout, or I don't know I don't know until I get there, but I was asked to briefly talk about what StartWheel is, entrepreneurship in the community, and what resources that people have, that they can leverage. So, I mean, like you want to talk about taking a step outside of your comfort zone. I mean, that's just that's extremely out of my comfort zone. But like we talked about, you got to continue to put yourself out there and do things that you otherwise would never do.
I remember it was probably 2012 after the second Start Norfolk. I don't know that I even knew you yet. I don't think I've met you. I was asked to speak on the same stage as the governor of Virginia at the time, which I can't remember his name, and there were 600 people there. I don't remember what I talked about. I remember like I was super freaking nervous. I remember I did some most ridiculous. I did everything you're not supposed to do. Like I chewed gum. I walked off the stage with the microphone, walked in between people, which people actually liked. I remember I was so nervous beforehand because it was 600 people, and I remember that. And this is like probably right before Hatch was about to launch officially for that first round. And I remember I went out beforehand, had a couple beers because I was so nervous. I needed something to turn me down. That did go away after some point, like where like I probably haven't had a beer before a performance in years. Right? Maybe the first State of the Startup Community address, and then I never had one before afterwards, but that was probably the last time, right? And so like I needed that to chill me out. And I don't condone, I don't recommend someone going and having a beer before it, but if that's what's going to make you feel comfortable, then maybe that's what you should do. I don't know. I get super nervous about stuff like that. Yeah.
Andrew, Well, so obviously as a captain, you get tons of playing time now. Did you get playing time as a freshman?
I did because the situation I'm in at Regent, I was actually a part of the first ever basketball team there. So we
Hmm.
were all 15 freshmen. So got a
Oh,
little bit
wow.
more of a level playing field there. But yeah, so our first ever season of basketball and sports at the university was in 2018. I was a part of that team. So that was a really unique experience, right? Not many people get to say that they started helped start a
Mm-hmm.
collegiate basketball team. So that was a really cool experience. It was tough. We got beat up on a bunch, but you grew a lot, and man, like some lifetime memories from there, and the guys I met there on that team and stuff.
Did
What's
you
your
feel did you feel nervous, Lo? Like, do I take the shot? Do I pass? Do I drive? How long did it take for you to get comfortable, or to not be scared of, man, if I mess up, then I'm going to be benched, then I'm going to lose out on playing time because there's 14 other freshmen
Yeah.
that are fighting for minutes.
Oh yeah. I mean, my first game, I was just like, I remember because my brother came to my first game, and I was we were warming up or whatever, and I had no idea who was going to start. I mean, we were in like a tournament in Georgia, and we like just come out of the locker room, and he had told us like he wrote on the board who was starting, and I was up there, and I like came out the locker room, and I like mouthed to my brother like I'm starting, and he was like, no way, like, and so I think. Especially that season, getting a couple games under your belt took a little bit. Luckily, the coach had a lot of trust in me and stuff, and you perform well in practice. So, you kind of start to realize, okay, I can do this. I'm like, yeah, I knew I was going to get those minutes, especially as the season like kind of kept going, and you kind of start to like separate yourself a little bit. But there's always like, you always have someone, ready to take your position, if you don't perform, like, especially at college, it's so much more of it's not YMCA, right? Not everyone's not going to get the same amount of minutes. It's a business at this point. So if you're not producing, if you're not doing what you need to do, whether it's offensively, defensively, being a good teammate, you're not going to get to play. And so
That is
there's definitely
interesting.
some pressure.
Calling it a business, right? It's a business. There's someone else is always coming after your spot, and I don't know. I don't know that I never have ever thought about that before, but I mean it's totally true, right? I
Well,
mean
if you
it's
look at it just in the sense of you got a full ride scholarship, Andrew,
Mhm.
that's so. I mean, they put up money for that. So I mean, it's just like you're not getting compensated directly, but there's still a value to that tuition. And so from that
Yeah.
standpoint, it is a business because
Mhm.
I don't
yeah.
know how scholarships work, but I mean, there's only so much scholarship money, and all that stuff has to be balanced out, and you have to
Yeah.
be able to perform. I mean, that's just another aspect of it. That's a performance. And as I'm sitting here thinking about this, basketball is an interesting sport in the sense of, with there only being 5 people on the court, you can't hide. So like baseball, you can hide. Football, you can hide. I mean, with basketball, you got to be where the ball. You have to be
And
where you
he's
have to
tall, so he
be.
definitely can't hide.
Well, but it's just if you make a mistake, it's really really hard to hide that. You miss a
So
shot, you miss a pass, you turn the ball over, you mess up defensively. I mean, you've got to be on it the entire time you're on the floor.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. I mean, I do think with baseball and football, you're going to have coaches that'll find out your mistakes anyway, right? But especially with basketball, with it only being 10 people, maybe not as much as an individual sport, obviously, but yeah, if you mess up, you're going to know it.
I
And
mean,
I think a lot of that
you
is
can
like
expose those weaknesses fast.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of that goes into, your team too, because you could think someone's cutting back door. I throw the pass, he didn't cut. It looks like it's on me, but it might be a little bit of miscommunication between both of us. So there's that other added pressure when you get, yelled at or you get taken out and you're like, he was supposed to do this, he didn't even know the play, and I mean that's just there's so many different variables with basketball, and it's so like bang bang as far as a play you can be shooting or you can have the ball and then make a pass and then the other team's down on the other end in 2 seconds. It is just such a fast paced game. But
what did
that's the
you do
fun
to
of it
channel
too.
those emotions?
As far as like pregame, or you're just saying like throughout the game?
Well, I thought you had said they went away at some point, right?
Yeah.
So and your coach had said, channel these emotions. How do you do that? Because I mean, for me, I feel like channeling the emotions is me saying I had a beer beforehand that calmed the jitters. You can't do that because you're about to play a sport, unless you're Josh Gordon.
Right.
But I mean, how did you put yourself through that situation to channel those emotions?
I try to not let the moment get bigger than what it really is. I try to not let like this game, if I have a bad game, if I miss a play, if I miss a shot, that is not going to determine my worth as a person, nor is it going to determine like my worth on the team. The world is not going to end. And I think sometimes you can make the moment bigger than it is. And sometimes that's when you let the pressure get to you too much. So I try my best to like keep it. I don't know. I just try to keep a realistic point of view. And I mean, one time we played a team and it was their new gym and it was 4,000, like over 4,000 people. And we were in warm-ups and they opened the doors like before to let like students first in. And I just remember like people just running in everywhere and like just trying to like get up close to the court and stuff. And I just looked around and I was like, there's no way I'm actually about to play in this game. Like, how am I going to do this? And it's just like before, and then you just kind of start to like be like, all right, like, you got this. This is what you work for. And I don't know. I guess just when the ball goes up. And another thing too that I wanted to say is with basketball, yes, there's a lot of pressure, and yes, your mistakes are gonna be pretty obvious, I would say. But you also have 4 guys that have your back too. So on the flip side of that, you don't have to do it all yourself, like like in tennis or swimming or an individual sport, right? It's like if I miss this, if I get blown by on defense, we play team defense, and I know I've got 4 other guys willing to cover for me, and then let me get back to my position, and then we'll reestablish. So at the same time, you got to lean into your teammates and your brothers that are out there fighting with you. You got to be able to trust them. And so I mean, that's like, I had one of my teammates is like a really good defender, and I just remember one time I was guarding really good ball handler, and I don't always get put in that position because of my height and stuff, and I was guarding him, and him just talking to me like, hey, like, I got you right. I was like, okay, that gave me the confidence I needed, because I know I've got a guy on my right and my left that's there to like help me out.
I'd like to see the 12,000 people walk into India Fest and Tim be on stage.
Right.
Yeah.
Just freaking out watching that.
Andrew, I'm curious, never being in that position, nor will I ever be in the position when you're on the foul line getting ready to take your shots, and the fans are behind you going crazy and they're doing all their stuff. Do you see any of that? Does it have any effect on it all? Are you just totally zoned in and everything is silent?
I don't hear stuff when I have the ball for the most part, like, so when I'm at the foul line, I really like can tune that out. I hear it if I'm like setting up to box out and someone else is shooting. I hear everything, like I hear, like, that's when I can kind of hear the fan stuff. But there's something about like you just being so focused, and I'm just just going through your routine and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I don't really hear them, or you're not really looking behind the backboard. I mean, even though it's clear, like you kind of just see the ball in the rim for the most part.
I was just curious. Yeah, people say that they never hear anything or see anything, but I'm like, is that lip service or is that, like legit? So,
well, it's lip service. I think
when you're trying to, I think when you're like trying to focus that much, you can kind of tune it out. But, if you're running up and down or like there's a dead ball, you'll definitely hear the fans chirping at you or, whatever. Like, I don't know. I think that's pretty natural to hear that, even though people act like they don't hear it.
There's a crazy ESPN quick little clip, maybe 4 minutes or so, about the Duke UNC rivalry in basketball, and Speedo guy is this guy who gets out and he while the players are shooting free throws, and he shows up in a Speedo and he does some crazy stuff, and it's like they miss the shot. So it is interesting to hear that you can somewhat look through that, but in Speedo guy's case, it was an unfortunate event where it did not work out that way for UNC, but whatever.
Yeah, I will say I haven't had anyone in a Speedo behind the backboard, so hopefully I don't have to see that. I'm just trying to stay focus.
Man.
Well, episode 125, we are here all in. Well, I'm colorblind. It looks like we're all in black tees of some sort, at least a t-shirt. Andrew, it's been great. Thanks for giving us the insights on how athletes still get nervous too, and some of the things that they do to remove the nerves, calm the nerves, if you will.
Yeah,
and keeping us in check every single week with the Fervent Four Show, making sure we hit the algorithms right, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, the hour mark, as Tim has said, has come so quickly. It was a fast hour, as he always says.
That's what the guests always say.
You say it sometimes too.
It is. Yeah, I do. You're right. You're right. I stand corrected. But the guest always you're like, wow, that was a really fast hour. But I agree that it always is a fast hour. And when I look at the timer and I only see like there's like 9 minutes, it's like that's when the flood of questions and like I want to continue the conversation going even longer.
I remember some of the best highlights, interviews, quotes, whatever, is when the cameras go off. And I think I think most people that have done the show maybe haven't been on long form interviews like this. Maybe they've done a clip here, like, oh, I'll send you something here. But I think it's still pretty fresh for people. I definitely recommend people to do more live stuff, to get on as many podcasts as possible, to try to articulate your answers out. It can really help formulate what you're trying to do. And if anyone is interested in being on the show, please hit either Tim or I up. You got our handles right there on the thing, at Zack Miller Says or at Ryan TNT. If you like today's show, make sure to give it a subscribe, share it with a friend, and that's all I got today. Zack Miller, journalist, ? That's how I'm gonna leave the show. I think I'm gonna change all my handles to Zack Miller, journalist ?
There you go.
I don't know that you can put those weird, funky characters, if you will, into stuff. So it'll stay the way it is.
Always fun, Zach.
Best of luck in your endeavors this season, and
yes,
we'll see what happens.
That's right. Go Bills.
Everyone's record is 0-0 right now.
That's right.
We'll see where it is next week. Until next time, thanks for listening. Peace.
So long.
And I guess pancakes, because I've never said that in a while. So.